There we go. What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Shred Show Live. We're all waiting. We're sitting here on pins and needles, and it finally, that's why we love technology. You never know what's going to happen. Guys, I can't tell you, I'm excited to hang out with two gentlemen today. You already know Brian. You love him. He's always brings so much inspiration. He brings so much guidance and so much happiness. Brian's hanging out. We also got Paul in the house. We're going to be talking about education. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard me talk about it before, but I believe education is one of those things, one of those gaps, especially within our industry, that we can never talk enough about. The more you get educated, the more you learn, the better you are at your craft. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be an incredible conversation. You are not going to want to miss it. Are you ready? Are you ready? It is time to shred. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Happy Thursday afternoon. Yeah, we're coming to you Thursday afternoon. I know some of you will be like, whoa, Thursday afternoon. Usually you're in the morning, Josh. No. We decided we're going to do this one a little bit later today because I've got two guys here that are just excited to be talking about education within our industry. You've heard me talk about it time and time again. I think this is one of those gaps that as we continue to fill it and as we have great organizations like Access Lending Academy, which we're going to be talking about here in a sec, that continues to help us mentally, emotionally, physically, in all ways, aspects of life, we're going to continue to get better at our craft. We're going to continue to be better mortgage advisors, better professionals in general. So, Brian, always good to have you. Welcome back to the show. And Paul, good to have you. A first time guest on the show. So excited.
Yeah, it's my first time.
First time shredder.
First time shredder. What's up, Rich Lane in the house as well? The broker's watching, and this better be good. Rich,
oh man,
we're gonna do
let
our
anybody
best.
In this thing.
I was gonna say we basically we let the riff raff come in last minute. So excited, Rich Lane. Always good to having you here. But all right, so real quick, I mean, again, Brian, we've had you on the show. You do an incredible job with FinLocker. Guys, if you don't follow Brian, you got to follow him on social media because he is one of those people that I love watching. I love engaging with. But Paul, for those who don't know you, I'm excited to have you on the show for the first time. Give a little introduction to yourself. Those who may not know you, those who may be not familiar, give a little introduction to yourself.
I get to talk about myself, which is one of my favorite things besides my family and Access Lending Academy. So I'll start with that. My husband and I have two kids. I've been in the lending industry since 2002, the mortgage lending industry. And a year ago, I sat back and saw a need for education in our industry that had a concentration on bridging the DE&I gap in the workplace within our industry. And so that's when I sat down and started to build out a really robust board and team of individuals and advisors to help me create Access Lending Academy.
Very cool. So for those who aren't familiar with DE&I, we're going to be getting into it. But what is DE&I?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those three.
Those are the big three. I love them.
Those are the big three. Yeah.
So you've been in the industry a long time. Brian, you've been in the industry a long time. And I think education is one of those things, but how really important is it, education in our industry? And like, how could it possibly like transform it? Like, again, I talk about it a lot, but this is something where it seems almost so profound and so deep, but how important is it?
You know, so I'll take this one and then Brian follow up, right?
Yeah.
So our industry does an amazing job of providing training.
Sure.
Every lender, a lot of the fintech companies, a lot of solution providers, we've got robust training for individuals that are entering our company, entering the industry, or changing jobs. What's really interesting about that, Josh, is training is very situational. Training is very focused on function. What Access Lending Academy has decided to do is step in on a brand new plane and provide education. So our robust, free 90-day program provides an overall education to mortgage lending. When our learners step away and graduate from Access Lending Academy, they understand the entire manufacturing process of a mortgage loan. They've learned the foundation through the first module. They've taken what they've learned in the module and apply it to hands-on experience in our lab. And then they get to take that and apply it toward a paid internship that we provide at a closing fulfillment company. So they're walking away with this huge breadth. They understand, even if they're moving into an underwriting position or a junior closing position, they understand what disclosures does, like a disclosure desk. They understand what a lock desk does. So it gives them that well-rounded understanding.
Well, and Brian, this is something you know really well, being that, FinTech Fridays, your podcast, what you do is about educating. It's, of course, you talk about, tech, but it really is focused. I love how Paul kind of described it there and kind of the difference between learning and education. But being somebody that, again, is so focused on this yourself, how important is education, especially right now within our industry?
Yeah. So what really, I immediately kind of got what Paul and his team were doing when they started Access Lending Academy on two dimensions, right? The first, which is what Paul just talked about, is education about the industry as a whole.
Sure.
There's no place really to go to learn about mortgage. Go find a curriculum in a college that talks about mortgage lending. You're not going to find it. So, the people that got into mortgage, all of us on this show, didn't get in purposely, right? We didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to go get in the mortgage business. We got in happenstance and by happenstance, and nothing's changed in the 30 years I've been around the business until Access Lending Academy came around, and now there's a actual purposeful path for someone who's not in the industry to learn enough about the industry to enter into it in various different feature or functions rather.
Sure.
And so that was kind of the first thing that just resonated with me, was what a immense gap we have in our industry. And then the second piece is being very focused on a segment of learners, right? Who probably more or less have been ignored or didn't have a path into this industry. And so what Access has done is kind of really, they're solving for multiple pain points. There's pain points they're solving for with the actual learner themselves, helping them get introduced to an industry that's changed lots of lives in a really positive way.
Sure.
They're solving major problems for mortgage companies that struggle with bringing diverse talent into their organizations, and this diverse talent's coming in with an understanding of the business, which is even more unheard of. And so when I kind of, Paul and I have talked for a while about a lot of stuff, and this was one that immediately I got it. I'm like, I came out of 28 years in the mortgage, side of the business where I ran large businesses in mortgage companies, and I never saw anything like this. And so it's every day it gets better, and it's still an untapped area. I mean, we're just scratching the surface today.
And that's what I think is fun about it. It is relatively untapped. We talk about, Paul, to your point, we talk about trainings and learnings, but education, there is a gap that is happening within the industry. And I think even as we continue to sometimes we have the wrong focal points within our industry. It's always about creating new business, new opportunities, this, that, this. But education is one of those things, especially when we start talking about ourselves as mortgage advisors, as we start talking about those who are truly trying to educate the consumers about the mortgage process, about the home buying journey that they're going through. So I think education is one of those pieces that we don't talk about enough. And I want to kind of build on this DE&I. Like, how does DE&I actually support growth within our industry?
That's such a great question, Josh, because there's a lot to unpack there. But where I'll start with, from my point, those diverse individuals that come into our industry, they've got this robust, widespread experience that we just don't have in our industry. So let's take out that education component where we're trying to find an entry or a point of entry into our industry for new individuals, right? For new people to enter our industry that are from other industries, but those diverse individuals that have had experiences, life experiences that we just don't know about, or non-diverse individuals don't know about. It brings this this additional level of experience, this additional level of new understanding, and it doesn't just affect the culture and the environment. It doesn't just level that up, but it provides a way to be more efficient and productive within work, within a process, within a procedure. And so both of those connected together. So those diverse individuals that are coming into the industry with a fresh pair of eyes, right, that haven't been in the industry before, that have a wealth of experience just in general life, different from what our industry has seen, they're going to start looking at function in a different way, especially being newly educated in our industry.
I think this is really this is just so intriguing. And back to your point, Brian, when Paul first started educating me on Access Lending Academy, I was like, whoa, this is it's just such kind of a different way of even looking at things. Our industry has such a way of getting our tunnel vision, which can be a good thing at times, but it's like, hey, there is something else. There's this other piece that no one is discussing, that no one's really even sharing or talking about. So that's what kind of gets me excited for the future of our industry, because we talk about this a lot. We continue to evolve, we continue to innovate, but when it comes to mindset and this type of thinking, I think sometimes we even lack, and it's just purely because of the lack of education and discussion that's out there.
Yeah.
I think what the other way I would look at this, I always try to look at things from a bunch of angles, and one angle that's just natural to me is the business angle, right? What's in it for me as running a business, running a mortgage company, where I exist to create mortgages, to write mortgages, to close mortgages, to create revenue, right?
Yeah.
Well, as we look at the home buyers, right, especially first-time home buyers, you only have to go back a year or two to look at the makeup. What does the first-time home buyer look like today, right? And when you start to mirror these home buyers and their makeup and their background and where they're coming from in life with who's serving them from a mortgage company perspective, there's been a big disconnect, right? There's a bunch of white males that are that still dominate our industry, right, wrong, or indifferent. And so I think most companies, if not all companies, are aware of this, but they don't know really how to go solve it strategically. And this is one of those problems that the industry has that I believe Access is kind of stepping in to start to help people think about potential solutions. And it's good business. I mean,
Right.
if you want to continue to thrive as an originator, as a mortgage company, as a mortgage origination company, you better be thinking about the customers that you're serving and what you look like and how you represent that space. And so I think when I set aside all the good that Access is doing, this is good business too.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a big part of it too, is, as you kind of even mentioned, I think business, of course, that's a big part of all. That's what we're in for. We want to support our families. We want to, make sure that our needs are taken care of. But at the same time, this gap that has just presented itself. It's not, and again, good, bad, or indifferent, like you mentioned, Brian, it's really something where we just, as we get in, is this something that's going to be solved overnight as well? Is this going to be just something that's taken care of and evaporates? No, of course not. This is something, and that's why it's discussions like this and all the work that Access Lending Academy is doing is such a necessary part of the future of our industry. And Paul, something that you talked about, that you alluded to, you kind of touched on, but I'm really big on, is you guys, it's not just the education, but it's the wellness program that you guys have. It's empowering us. I'm all about like I said, I talk about mental, physical, emotional health quite a bit. Something you guys have tied into this is this wellness empowerment program side of it. So let's talk a little bit about that. And I mean, how does that even support a company's growth, their culture, and their environment?
Yeah, it's so supportive across the board. So, let's unpack that and talk about it as it relates to Access Lending Academy and our
Yeah.
learners, right? As we're educating these individuals on this brand new industry. And for many of our learners, this is their first desk job.
Sure.
This is their first time having an email and being expected to answer that email within like 15 or 20 minutes, right? Is the file funding?
Oh,
So it was really important for us, especially as we're talking about bringing in those diverse individuals, to ensure that our learners were being educated on what to do with that education. Meaning we had to sit back and figure out a way to support our learners with self-awareness, being empowered, understanding their ability, understanding how important their life is, their body is, and what they bring to the table, and then how to communicate that. So we designed Access 360 Wellness, which is our wellness program. Our learners we've got 3 professionals in the program. The first one is a licensed therapist. The second one is a physical education specialist and meal nutritionist. And the third one is a communication, speaking engagement coach. So our learners spend 1 hour a day or 1 hour a week with each of those professionals throughout the first 60 days of our education platform. And what those 3 professionals do is they concentrate on empowering, as I said, those learners with what is your ability? How far can you go as far as you want to go? And how do you do that? So we really ensure that when they're placed with our permanent placement partners, which are either lenders or solution providers or technology companies in the industry, they're coming to the table with a whole self approach, right? So they're coming to the table with 100% of themselves, and they have the ability to provide 100% of themselves, whether they're at work or whether they're at home. So, let's look at this. Not only is it a whole self approach, but it's an integrative whole self approach.
Oh, I like to look at it that way. It is kind of the whole thing. And Brian, I want to talk about this because you've been in this industry a long time. You've seen it, like you're a veteran, you're one of the masters that like everybody looks up to. And how important is wellness? Like not just physical, mental, and like we go through a lot of shit. We go through a lot of ups and downs in life, man. Like how important is that? And again, there's just not a lot. Again, we've seen wellness coaches and things like that in the industry, but to you and to everything you've seen, how important is it to be like mentally and physically like well in all this?
I mean, Paul kind of nailed it on the head. It's like, it's one thing to be technically proficient and able to do the work, whatever the work is, right?
Sure.
But if you come at it and you are more than technically proficient there, but you have things going on outside of your work life that are inhibiting your ability to be successful, doesn't matter how well trained you are, it's not going to be a good situation for yourself and or the employer. And so I think what Access is one of the few entities that I've seen that's taken this holistic approach when it comes to helping learners not just prepare for the job and the function, but prepare for the life around the job. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm the most physically healthy or mentally healthy person, but
mentally, we know, dude. We all. I mean, let's go there. Come on.
I would have loved to have had a base knowledge to start my career with that included these skills, these life skills. And I think it's so important going forward.
Well, I think that's what's so different about it too, is because again, we're not young bucks by any means anymore, but we've gone through things in our lives where we've experienced them, and like life happens. Like, yes, we have our careers, we have our professions, we're mortgage professionals, real estate, whatever it is, but like life happens. Like having that base foundation, especially if you're coming into the industry, if you're really starting to, get your feet wet, being in that right place. Cause I always like to tell people, like, being a mortgage advisor is not a walk in the park. Like, it takes a lot of mental fortitude. I mean, we see ups, we see downs. The year that we're coming into, there's a lot of people, worried about the year up and ahead. It takes you being in that right place. Like, and I talk a lot about the physicality. A lot of people know, like, the things that I've done on the physical world of like health, body things, and things like that do make a big difference. But that's why, Paul, I think this is exciting, is because you are, to Brian's point and what he said, this is giving those who are coming through the academy the right start. And sometimes that's all. Like, it just creates those learning habits. That's what education is. It's creating those habits in the very beginning. So when we come up against those like really difficult times, hey, I went prepared for this. I know how to adjust. Like, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be able to get through this because, again, I was taught in the beginning of that. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So I want to kind of, as we start to wrap this up here, but this is all fine and dandy. This is all great. This is like, it's exciting to me, but to Brian's point and to many of the people out there, I guarantee, like, executives that are watching this, a lot of them are saying, well, yes, this is all amazing. It sounds wonderful. It sounds amazing. And again, I love that Brian came at it in this angle, because a lot of people are thinking, but how does it affect the bottom line? Like, how does it affect our business? Like, how is this actually going to help us grow as an entity, grow as an organization? How does that actually increase everything, Paul?
Yeah. So, we'll start with the bottom line conversation, because right now, especially with margin compression, top of mind for everyone, right? So you're looking at our learners. These learners have been newly educated. So all the material is brand new. These learners have gone through this robust education course for 90 days, 3 hours a day, 4 days a week, nonstop. They have to maintain a really high GPA. They can't miss a class. They have midterms, they have finals, they have presentations. It's school. These learners are so eager to break into our industry, and these learners, it's all entry level. We're looking at a percentage of anywhere from 10 to 17% lower in overhead and expenses for our learners compared to individuals that were in the industry that were doing the same function, because of the pay, because of the location of our learner. On top of which, if you take that and you add in our wellness and you add in the new education, the productivity rate for our learners is much higher, or can be higher, than individuals that have been in the industry and are producing the same way they're producing 10 or 15 years ago. So touch per file comes down a little bit. Our learners have the ability to move in with the new understanding of the new technology that's in the industry. When they're in the lab module, they all receive laptops that are preloaded with software solutions of today, and they're using all those software solutions, the LOSs, the CRMs, and the POSs. So they come in really ready for lending industry as of now. So we can look at the bottom line in a couple of different ways: lower overhead, lower expense, lower cost for our learners, comparatively speaking, as well as they're coming in with this dedication to our industry, dedication to access, because of what they've been given the opportunity for.
That's such a, I think this is one of those things that is just so exciting. As somebody who's owned a mortgage company, people sometimes forget that an originator. I remember my start in the industry. It was basically just learning. Like, I had a mentor. He was like, dude, go take this file. Hey, go call these loan brights. Go dial. You'll figure this shit out. And I'm like, whoa, like, I guess we'll make it happen one way or another. And like, it was just kind of thrown in the deep end. This is such a different way. Like, and we are starting to look forward to, and there's so much discussion around, what does the future of our industry look like? Like, who is that new generation of loan officers, mortgage professionals, mortgage advisors coming in, and how do we educate them? How do we make sure they're prepared for the challenges they're going to come up against? Not just the challenges, like you said, when's the LE going to be out? When are closing docs? When are closing docs? You mentioned that. Like, we all joke about it, but like, there are certain mental rigmaroles that we go through on a regular basis. But then also, when life happens, we can be prepared for those things. So I just think it's such a different approach, which is, again, exciting to me. There's great education platforms out there. Don't get me wrong. There's some other great, trainings and things like that. Back to your point that you made in the very beginning. Sure. There's some great training platforms out there that kind of or when it comes to like learning the ABCs of mortgage. Sure, they're very, very good. This is just such a different approach. This is looking from the outside and finding where there was this need and finding out what was missing and saying, hey, we can do this. Like, let's start educating the future and the bright minds of our industry right in the beginning. So it is exciting. This has been an incredibly exciting conversation. I'm excited for you, Paul, for your entire organization, for the Access Lending Academy as it continues to grow. And Brian, you're one of those too. It speaks a lot to an organization when you have like a leader like Brian, somebody who's been again, a master of his craft, who sees something. And again, because Brian, you've been in it as long as you have, you can say, this is something that is going to impact. This is something that is going to help the future of our industry. Guys, it's fun. It's exciting. I know I'm stoked for it. I know I'm excited to see what you guys continue to do too, Paul.
Yeah, appreciate it, Josh.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, the future of our industry, there's so many unknowns, but this is one of those things that it doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is, thought processes, patterns. I honestly like the quote Nelson Mandela, and I hope I don't slaughter this. It's like, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, something like that. I might have missed that up a little bit. It's something like that. Education is the most powerful weapon. I know that. He talks about, Nelson Mandela talks about that, and it is. And we as an industry are not talking about it. We talk about the trainings, we talk about this, but this is such a powerful tool we have right at our fingertips now. And it's all thanks to you, Paul, and the discussion here. So you guys are brilliant. Appreciate you guys coming on the Shred Show today, sharing all this. Paul, if they want to get connected with the Access Academy, what's the best way for them to go find out more about the Access Lending Academy?
Check out our website, accesslendingacademy.com. Go to our LinkedIn page. Phone numbers, emails, contacts are all over the place. Reach out to me. I'd love to chat with all of you about the lift that we're creating in the industry.
Perfect.
There's some unbelievable testimonial videos from learners that people need to pay attention to. It's totally very inspiring.
See, and that I've seen I know exactly what you're talking about, Brian. Go watch them. Hearing from people who have gone through it, like you said, Paul, I don't want anybody to get intimidated. It sounds a little bit intimidating, which it very well should be, because if you're just getting your start in the industry, you're in for a wild ride. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, as always, it has been so great to have Paul and Brian join us on the show. And it's been awesome having all of you here. Thanks for the engagement. Thanks for those who have commented. Go check out Access Lending Academy if you have more questions. And with that, as always, we appreciate you. We love you. Now it's time for all of you guys to go shred, go show up, hustle, repeat every day. See ya.